What do I want to play? Man, I feel let's just add that real quick. Done. Dip. Doodah. Can you beat Elden Ring? What do I want to... Oh, the options I would ever want. You know what? It has been a really, really long time since I played some Dusk. I'll play some Dusk. I'll just throw something on in the background for views. Man. God, Preston looks like shit. Bro, hold on. Hold the fuck on. Hold on. Hold on. I do not mean to disparage another human being. Especially someone who, like, brought me joy from, like, a movie. Granted, he was really treated like shit. But, bro, I understand that the jackass guys are my age. Man. Look at poor old Preston here, bro. He's looking rough. Ooh. And listen, all the jackass guys are like the same age as like my mother and father. But even so, that's just really rough. Poor guy. We're not going to watch that though, because not necessarily my bag. Well, we could watch this. We'll rewatch something else. Let's see what we got. Oh, Bellular's got something going on. Asmongold level 1 Wretch versus Tree Sentinel. Xbox Fizz Fable is still years away. XDev speaks out why he left. Minecart Cameron. Oh yeah, that was the Oblivion villain. Really freaking interesting. Sarah Palin running for Congress. Maybe I'll try to avoid the toxic stuff. Problem with Jon Stewart. New incredible mod. Juicehead. Juicehead. I just added Fallout. Oh, cool.
We just got some big new mod releases for Fallout 4, including one mod that I think is perhaps one of the most highly requested pieces of cut content to get added to Fallout 4, and after over 6 years of waiting, somebody has actually added it into the game. In addition, we've actually gotten mods and some pretty big updates from both Fallout Miami and the Fallout 3 Remake Mod, these massive scale projects just kind of giving us a steady flow of content, and really it's a great time to be modding Fallout 4. There's a ridiculous amount of high quality content out there, and even in this video I'm going to specifically show you a few hidden gems or things that I just think deserve a lot more attention. Although with Fallout 4 things can get pretty lonely. Sure, you can act as a one-man army jumping into combat, but maybe you're looking for a more proper all-out battle. Well, don't worry, because I'm going to help you with that thanks to today's video sponsor with World of Tanks. So this game...
Alright, hold on. So just a heads up. This is a video by Juicehead. He's a much larger YouTuber than I am, but still want to show respect where respect is due. And this is his, it's finally here. Modders just added in Fallout 4's biggest piece of cut content. Please make sure you go give at least a little bit of love beforehand. And I'll also probably lower the sound from Dusk here just so it's a little less overwhelming. Okay, there we go.
At least for me, is a little bit too much fun. Every time I start playing it, I get a little too dragged in, and a quick hour session rapidly turns into several hours. It's honestly pretty simple. You have 600 different tanks to choose from that you take into epic 30 tank battles. Like, that's just cool. And you get a lot of options here. You could be the annoying quick tank that speeds off and teammates are looking at their chart. Thanks that you get to Fallout 4. We first For new players who register for the first time. Thanks again to World of Tanks for sponsoring this video.
Go
Looking back at Fallout 4, we first have to take a look at 20 Leagues Under the Sea, aka the addition of Vault 120 into Fallout 4. If you're not familiar, in the original plan with Fallout 4, there was an idea to actually add in an underwater vault. This makes a lot of sense, because if you look at Fallout 4's world space, there is a massive water section that you basically never use. The quest around this vault was going to be 20 Leagues Under the Sea, and the vault itself was going to be Vault 120. Well, now, thanks to this new mod author, which makes this all the more impressive, you actually can visit Vault 120 and in fact take it on as your own settlement. At its core, it is a relatively simple mod. Now by Nordhagen Beach, you'll be able to find Vault 120 itself. It'll have this nice little elevator shaft to go down into it, and from there you're going to have a destroyed, ghoul-occupied massive vault to explore and again call your own, as there are 2 separate settlements you can claim here. And you can find all kinds of interesting things throughout. Some of the visuals being pretty much unparalleled in Fallout 4, because as this was intended, you're only in a vault, but you could also see some city outside of the vault, with the visuals just being stunning here, actually being able to look out into the open sea and see some of those other structures. This also does have some pretty cool features, like actually giving you the ability to enter into that sea world space. You'll find hatches in this where you will be able to just kind of swim out beyond. You can create an extensive settlement here. I actually think this could be a super cool place to take advantage of with sim settlements, especially
I really
with
like
those
this
internal
a lot.
plots, as there are all kinds of different rooms and infrastructure. This is laid out like it is a truly abandoned vault, and you'll find many of the familiar facilities that are in other vaults. But in general, I feel like just for a lot of Fallout 4 players, we have so long talked about, heard about this quest in this location. It's so nice that somebody is actually adding in this content now. It was easily one of the most famous pieces of cut content that we never actually got, even from modders, which is pretty rare. And it would be cool in the future to see some modders attempt to actually turn this into something larger by adding in some questing functionality, or perhaps some kind of story and this vault being functional. And one of the other things that gets me really excited with Fallout 4 modding is the continuation of these large-scale DLC-sized mods actually releasing content for us as they progress on their mod's progress. And what we're taking a look at today is the first episode of Miami Misadventures. Fallout Miami, as the name suggests, is going to add in post-apocalyptic Miami Beach as a DLC-sized mod experience in Fallout 4. One of the things that is unique about this one is it is a proper DLC. It's meant to be an extension of Fallout 4. You are still the same character going somewhere else. But of course, that other place is going to have its own factions, quests, items, and more. So Miami Misadventures, and specifically Miami Misadventures Episode 1, will implement several of these new items in an interconnected quest into Fallout 4's Commonwealth. This is pretty fun. I like how they did this. Basically, there's a caravan passing through the Commonwealth, this caravan seemingly being from Miami, and the caravan was ambushed with the items being stolen. You're going to have this minor puzzle-based quest where you're going to have to track down these thieves, and you will, along the way, be able to reclaim the thieves' items as well as the items stolen from the caravan. And the way this is laid out is you're going to have images and notes, and you'll kind of have to go off of them and hopefully find where things went. It's not particularly difficult, but it does make you think a little bit. I personally found it to be pretty fun. So naturally, all of these new items are things that are going to appear in Fallout Miami and are completely new to Fallout 4. It'll have some armors, 4 totally new masks from Fallout Miami that'll be a part of the Dreamers faction, which are a tribe of chem-addicted people in Miami that get up into their own certain set of things that I don't want to get too explicit on because demonetization is still a thing. The masks overall are pretty awesome and can be paired quite well with the 2 new custom Letterman jacket outfits that are added in with this mod that do have nice decals and logos on them. And I would say these masks overall do fit quite well into Fallout 4. It does feel like one of those kind of dirtier or darker faction armors that would pop up in a Fallout world. But what I think is on the cooler side are some of the weapons. There's a golf club, which is very fitting for Miami. But a lot cooler is the compact SMG, aka an Uzi. This has a variety of attachments and mostly familiar or things you would expect on this, but also a bunch of skins you can apply to it. We get a fully custom version by actually completing the quest, and it looks awesome. It has all kinds of writing and marks on this being representative of what you'll find in Fallout Miami. Some of the skins actually being specific to Fallout Miami's factions, and then a bunch of other skins specific to the Fallout 4 Commonwealth factions. I don't think the weapon is fun and cool to use. The animations really take it over the top for me. Perhaps this is not going to make sense to anybody else, but to me it kind of feels like these animations fit the Miami theming. Like you could picture a Miami gangster character of sorts reloading the Uzi with this animation style. It's kind of over the top, quickly and confidently done, but with flair added to it, and I really like that. They're just fun animations in general, but again, to me, it does feel very Miami. And it even includes this little crocodile statue, which is just a fun little extra. Outside of this, Fallout Miami has actually posted some other updates and showcases on their Discord. This is a standalone and first episodic release of Miami Misadventures, but progress is continuing on the mod in general. We get a look at the Slaver armor that will surely be a memorable one from our time in Miami, as well as some concept art of this in action, as Slavers will be a major component of this story and experience in the Miami Waste, and we also get an outfit of just the regular Slaver suit, non-armor, that definitely shares that connective tissue with the actual armor itself, as well as we actually get a look at some of the level design work. An early look at one of the vaults that will pop up in Miami. It's nice to see them continuing the vault culture, something that some of the other Fallout games haven't done so much, but also a variety of shots of the Palm Meadows Fire Department, one of the notable locations that will pop up in this world, and you can see how they've fleshed this out really well, with that interior design work that can be oh so tedious. But okay, that's one DLC-sized mod on its way, one great piece of cut content. How about a look at some of the releases from the Fallout 3 Remake Mod? These guys have been posting a ton of content as a part of their larger roadmap, and I actually think some of the more recent releases are some of the coolest ones yet. The Capital Wasteland Gauss Rifle is going to add in that very iconic Gauss Rifle from Fallout 3, fully recreated for Fallout 4. It's pretty simple, it doesn't have a ton in the way of customization options, but it looks great, and I feel like for some reason, this, and in particular the YCS variant of this, as this mod will include some of the unique variants and have them hand-placed in Fallout 4, but this YCS variant just contains a ton of nostalgia for me. This of course being the unique version to pop up in New Vegas, and I vividly remember years ago playing New Vegas, actually watching guides on where to find this, and then using this fairly overpowered or at least strong weapon in New Vegas for the entirety of my playthrough. Overall, it's a super well done recreation, an upgraded version, but also incredibly faithful to the original. But another mod that I think deserves a bit more attention and is really cool is Dynamic Ghoulification, which is going to really do two major things. On one hand, it's going to re-implement some of the radiation poisoning features into Fallout 4 from Fallout 3. So obviously in Fallout 4, when you get rads, you will lose part of your health bar, but even further, you'll now get the debuffs of radiation poisoning that will come in several stages. This just being a hit on your special stats just like it was in Fallout 3. But one of the interesting parts is if you get to the point of having over 600 rads on you, this being the most severe version of radiation poisoning before death, you'll actually start turning into a ghoul. I really love the way they implemented this. The way it works is once you have this amount of rads, and if you can't heal them, or if you just spend too much time with this, and it's a fairly sizable amount of time, about 24 hours, you'll start noticing changes to your character. The first stage being the skin peeling you are seeing. It's still relatively minor, but if you have more time pass by, you'll actually get to the point where this level of ghoulification is uncurable. You can remove the rads and stop the continuation, but your character will permanently have these marks on them. At that first stage, you can remove the rads and actually get away from it, and then you can progress further to stage 3, which probably looks the worst. Like, it looks good from a visual perspective, but it looks very unhealthy, like your character is genuinely sick, and that point's even hard to look at a cleared section in the transition to a ghoul. And then finally you can reach stage 4, which is going to be full-on ghoulification. Your character loses radiation sickness because you are now a ghoul permanently in Fallout 4. And this has all kinds of benefits. The heal rate will actually be increased depending on how much radiation you have. Feral ghouls will no longer attack you on sight, although they can be provoked. Again, you won't actually have radiation poisoning. And also you'll get some charisma debuffs because you now look like a ghoul, so your charisma and trading ability won't be as high in Fallout 4. Overall, I think this mod is awesome. I think it's really cool to be able to turn into a ghoul both from a gameplay but also a visual perspective. We have some other mods doing similar things, but typically on only one front. And it's definitely one to keep in the back of my load order. Having a playthrough as a ghoul is definitely a fun switch up. But then with that, we should also probably take a look at the Fallout 4 Remake Mod. There's actually one specific mod, not even from that team directly, that I want to highlight, and that is the Anti-Material Rifle Fallout 4 New Vegas Real-Time Cover Penetration Framework patch. So I think this mod deserves way more attention. The real-time cover penetration framework will make it so you can shoot through walls in Fallout 4, and specifically the mod I'm highlighting here is a patch for that will apply it to the Anti-Material Rifle from Fallout New Vegas. You'll have a new mod now that you can apply that gives this wall penetration ability, and you can now shoot enemies enemies through certain walls and deal damage to them. It won't deal full-on damage compared to just shooting them throughout the wall. Obviously, you're going through a wall. But I think this is just a really cool feature to have in Fallout 4 and surprisingly practical at times. And it does feel very practical and relevant to have it on a massive rifle like this. It's relatively minor, but something I've been having a ton of fun with. I've been using a few of the other mods benefiting from real-time cover penetration, and I just wanted to bring more attention to this one. And Fallout 4 New Vegas itself has also been very busy. They just recently showed off some images of the 12.7mm SMG that looks absolutely phenomenal. You can see this thing is incredibly high quality, having the base weapon itself, but also even with some of the modifications and attachments that will be coming with this with the Fallout 4 modification system. It looks really good. I'm actually quite excited for this one. It'll probably be one of the best SMG options in Fallout 4 because it's kind of lacking in that category to begin with. But even further, they also have some images of that gun that are also a work in progress and also look phenomenal. With that said, that's a recap at some of the more recently released mods for Fallout 4 and some pretty fun ones. Kind of going over some of the upcoming stuff, but also some of the currently available stuff and even some cut content mods. As always, again, I thank you all for watching. I do hope you guys enjoyed this video. But with that, I do hope to see you all next time. Later.
Nice. That was a nice video. But for those who are wondering, like, this is not a old game. This is actually a new game that was made, and it's just a level of effort has been, it's made basically to be in the style of old DOS shooters. What I'm trying to do right now is I'm trying to get access to a secret. I'm trying to do that. Fuck, I overshot it. That's frustrating. Ah, damn it. Fucker. Yeah, I'm trying to get there. And to get there, I need something to stand on. See if I can rob this house and see if there's anything in there. That could work. Bip, bip. Here's we go. That's there just in case I fuck up again. There we go. Gotcha, bitch. Let me play this maybe I'll play this Vosh video that just was posted. Yeah, this is Vosh is a political streamer. He's kind of like yeah.
Russia's military held a big briefing this afternoon announcing the war had entered a second phase. We can make my camera a bit bigger if we're not playing Elden Ring, thank you. Blammo. Here's a summary of how Russia at this point in the war has depicted what it set out to do, why, and where we're at. Oh, by the way, Russia, in like 1 month, suffered more casualties and far more equipment loss than we did in Iraq and Afghanistan in 20 years combined. They've also lost more people and I think more equipment than they lost in their war in the Soviet war in Afghanistan, which did not last 1 month. So, you know, going great over there for them. As you can see, the lines of control have really not changed that much. The funniest thing for me is that they have barely managed to budge the line in the Donbass region, you know? Like, they've been closed from the north and the south, but in terms of moving through the most heavily defended portion, the one that you'd expect them to sweep through, yeah. Listen, fighting with Ukraine and their tractors is like fighting an army of necromancers, okay? As Russia loses tanks, Ukraine gets them, okay? Every tank lost by Russia is a tank towed away by a Ukrainian farmer to be brought back, you know? Anyway. First, the general said Russia had always intended only to liberate the Donbass. That's what it set out to do, of course. It had two options: fight a war in the east, but allow Kyiv to replenish its forces, or start off by knocking out Ukrainian military capacities across the country. Over a month of war, Russia has knocked out most of Ukraine's military capacities, the generals claimed. Keep in mind, everything being said here is from them. So can now move on to its next phase, which will be focused only on the east, which could involve heavy bombardment. Interesting. Russia had never intended to capture Kiev, Kharkiv, and other cities, the general said. These are not setbacks, in other words. It's all part of the plan. Oh my god. Dude, they're such sore losers. Oh my god. Jesus. At least when the Taliban took over Afghanistan 6 hours after he left, like, the American generals and Biden weren't like, yeah, we intended them to take over 6 hours after. Like, Jesus, just okay. And the plan was to distract Ukrainian forces while Russia, Donetsk, Luhansk made territorial gains in the east. Numerous statements made about not targeting civilian infrastructure, avoiding civilian casualties, of course, blah, 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 blah. Defense Ministry briefing also shared... By the way, just in case you guys were wondering, like, not only has Russia engaged in indiscriminate shelling of multiple cities, they're also attacking humanitarian aid and denying Ukraine the ability to form humanitarian corridors to try to get people to extraction. In fact, I think there was actually a military official recently who said that he would surrender to Russia as long as they allowed him to enter the city and escape with all of the children. Like, as long as... Which city was that? Like, if he could enter the city and get all the children to safety, he would turn himself over to Russia afterwards. It was Mariupol? Gotcha. If anyone has a link to that, I'd like to show it. The real Kharkiv kid finder. An actual hero. I've heard people saying Azov's been destroyed or something in Mariupol. Yeah, apparently the Azov battalion has been, like, wiped or something like that. They fought... I think they were fighting Chechen forces, right? And apparently they've been sort of wiped, which, as far as I'm concerned, is a W for both Russia and Ukraine, and is therefore just an unambiguous humanitarian good. Can't really argue with that. Yeah, Nazis killing Nazis. Oh, the Chechens are doing zero fighting, don't believe the hype. Well, it's hard to know. Whatever the case is, it seems like the Azov battalion has at the very least lost significant operational capacity, and it will be they're no longer capable of fielding like a full front, you know? Like they've taken significant losses, is what I have heard. Again, you know, fog of war, hard to know. Anyway, Defense Ministry briefing also oh, give me the link to that the Mariupol kid finder, please. Defense Ministry briefing also shared a new official figure for the number of Russian soldiers killed. The second statement by Russian side during the course of the war said 1,351 were killed. Cope. Figure is far below Ukrainian and international estimates. This is probably like 1/10 of how many. Recently, I wish I had the links for all these, but I'm so lazy. Recently, I believe there was a Russian reporting outfit that briefly gave an actual and honest accounting of how many Russian soldiers had died since the invasion, and it was like 10,000 dead and like 15,000 wounded or something like that. I forget the exact numbers from Russia, and then immediately it was like deleted. You know. Yeah, here we go. Literal, actual hero, by the way. You know. Police General Ebroskin offered himself as a hostage in exchange for the evacuation of children from Mariupol. Actual, genuine, literal hero. Today, in the completely destroyed city, there are many children left who, if not saved now, they will die in the coming days. Time is running out. I appeal to the Russian invaders. Give them the opportunity to take the children out of Mariupol instead of the still living children. I offer myself. Yes, I ask you to let me to Mariupol to collect the children and organize their removal. I need 3 days in the city. At the last checkpoint during the return journey with the children, I surrender. Ebroskin addressed the Russian invaders. God damn. Casualty numbers you're talking about? Yeah, it was something like this. It was like very, very, very briefly. There was an outfit. Yeah, news outlet issued. Pro-Kremlin tabloid Komsomolskaya Pravda revealed on March 21st that nearly 10,000 Russian troops have been killed in Ukraine's war before hastily removing the info from its news portal. Later, the news outlet issued a statement saying that it had been hacked. impossible to know the truth. Is this incompetence? Is this malicious, like, incompetence? You know, is it deliberate? Is it not? It's impossible to know. My guess is that it's dissidents who are deliberately doing this in order to undermine propaganda from the Kremlin. That's my guess. I don't know that. I have no way of proving it. I will never be able to prove it unless someone comes out and admits it, which I hope they do one day. That'd be pretty cool. But it's what I believe. Children were the rut for Vladimir Putin's war. Yeah, this is like pretty grim stuff. If you guys want to go looking for evidence of the damage this war has done, yeah, I don't. Not to shy away from it. It's just, you know, you can kind of get, you can kind of intuit what a lot of what I would have to say would be. Isn't it something like literally 1/2 of the children in Ukraine have been displaced at this point? Like 1/2 of all of the under 18s in Ukraine have been forced to leave their homes at this point. That might even be lowballing it. It's hard to know. It's hard to tell. Which half? I'm gonna guess the eastern half. If we have to separate the country into halves, I'm gonna say mostly the east half. Just a guess though. Look, horrors of war aside, there is some genuine good here. And the genuine good here is that Russia is huffing gigacopium. Just colossal amounts of weapons-grade copium. The idea that now they would be saying they had no intention of capturing... Okay, saying they didn't intend on capturing Kyiv is one thing. Okay, that's one thing. It's still a lie. Saying they never intended on capturing Kharkiv. Kharkiv. Oh, really? Yeah, you were never hoping to capture that one, huh? Yeah? Okay. Okay. You know, you can talk about, you know, attacking Kyiv as a way of, like, distracting them and disrupting operational capabilities, but trying to pretend that you weren't trying to capture Kharkiv. Honestly. Ridiculous. Absolutely astonishing. Phenomenal. Legit, like, phenomenal stuff right there. This is a massive sign of weakness on the part of the Russian government, and I think that this is a very positive sign for the future of this conflict. Unless this is some kind of 4D chess misdirection before they unveil the, like, Evangelion mechas they're going to be deploying in the Donbass region, this seems to me like an indication that they have given up on the possibility of winning a full, like, conquest of Ukraine, which was undeniably their original goal. It seems like they've given up on it. Maybe not given up, but at the very least, they're like, you know, it's not something they're confident they're going to be able to achieve. Which is very, very, very funny. They literally pushed from east to Kyiv but never wanted to capture it. Yes. Hey, bro. Just trust me, bro. Just trust me. We committed thousands of armored vehicles on 2 fronts from the north and from the east to encircle Kyiv, and committed a massive shelling campaign of it. Had a 40-mile-long convoy headed to Kyiv. Bro, it was just to distract them. Bro, we were just Bro, we traveled across 200 miles of Ukrainian marshland for the memes, bro. Oh yeah, Kharkiv. We just, you know, lost hundreds of soldiers fighting a gritty block-by-block battle for a month for fun, bro. Like, Jesus Christ. Okay. Yeah, okay. It was just a prank, bro. It's just a prank. Sanctions see Russians panic buy antidepressant sleeping pills. Jesus, that's grim. Russians have rushed to stock up on antidepressant sleeping pills and contraceptives among other products. Data released with people buying a month worth of medicine just in 2 weeks. Official opinions post, most Russians support Putin's decision to send troops in. Social media interviews and anecdotal data suggest many Russians have been distressed by the severity of the sanctions. It's really, really, really difficult to trust any official information on what, like, support for Putin is, because it's a dictatorship and Putin, like, arrests and kills dissidents pretty often. So it's unfortunate because, like, from a sociological perspective, what I want is, like, very concrete polling data, you know? But it's not like we have Reuters over there, like, conducting independent polling. The polling that's done in Russia is done by Russia. So it's really, really, really difficult to look at the numbers there and go like, oh, yes, of course. Well, obviously, that's reliable, you know. Russian forces no longer have full control of Kherson. Yeah, I heard that as well. Phenomenal stuff, really. Ukraine has been just kicking them to the curb. Just kicking them to the curb. Fantastic stuff. Memes aside, I don't think Ukraine is going to keep all its territory before the war. So the really big question here is, let's assume a positive scenario in which Russia is beaten back, you know. No nuclear involvement. Ukraine is successful in recapturing most of its territory. The real question for me would be, what about the Donbass region? Because I imagine that after, like, imagine you're like Zelensky, you're Ukraine, right? Like, imagine that after 8 years of proxy war in the Donbass region, you are invaded by the largest country on the planet, and you win. If I was Ukraine, I would reconquer. I would reduce this part of the Donbass to ash. Not necessarily because that's the best thing to do, but because, holy shit, can you imagine them, like, after beating back Russia, can you imagine them returning to, like, the line of conflict in 2014? And then going like, okay, and now the rest of this can continue being like a Russian separatist hellhole. Yeah, I don't know. I see, like, there are three possibilities here. One of them, I'll talk about Crimea in a second. One of them is that Ukraine hopped up on, like, blood, marches east, and reconquers every square inch of dirt up to the border. This would be difficult, but possible, I think, if they manage to beat Russia back everywhere else. That's one. Especially since I'm pretty sure that recently Zelensky made a plea for more weapons from the West because they have adequate defensive capabilities, but they don't have adequate offensive capabilities. Which suggests to me that right now the Ukrainian brass aren't just thinking about defending their cities, but reconquering territory that Russia currently occupies. I just pray to God they don't lose their marbles and decide to move within the Russian border, because if they do, we're going to have an entirely separate set of problems on our hands. That would be an inadvisable decision for a variety of reasons. It would make them look very bad historically. I think that's highly unrealistic. Yes, it is, and I really hope it doesn't happen. Anyway, that's one possibility. A second possibility is that Ukraine returns to the previous line of conflict and just goes back to the status quo. This doesn't seem likely to me. And that the third is that essentially Russia and Ukraine agree to a ceasefire and the Donbass region turns into the DMZ, basically. Like, it's like essentially like it becomes as policed and as watched on both borders as like the North-South Korean border, where there are like guard outposts every 5 feet along this massive border. And that everyone inside either lives essentially in a concentration camp or they leave, and it just turns into a like millions of acres. Is it million? I think this might be millions of acres. Ukraine's pretty big, like a huge amount of territory, just being like left, just completely empty, which is possible. You know, this could end up being like the new Iron Curtain, I guess. Oh, if Ukraine does want to join NATO, they can't have any conflicts going on within their borders, which makes me think that they're going to cede Crimea to Russia as part of their ceasefire. That's a feeling. In fact, they might make a trade, the Donbass region for Crimea officially being recognized as part of Russia, for a couple of reasons. First of all, the people in Crimea were always the most politically affiliated with Russia. This is often overstated by tankies and Russian apologists, but it is true just broadly. It's possible Ukraine wouldn't think it's worth the effort, and that would allow them potentially to get NATO membership in the future, because if they recognize Crimea as part of Russia, the rest of the world probably would as well, and that would mean it's no longer a conflict within their borders. As for the Donbass region, if they could get that in a concession, the thing that I would be curious about is, like, what happens if Russia goes back to its old game and they just continue, like, funding secessionists in the Donbass region after the cessation of arms? Like, what? Does Ukraine just, like, do the whole fuck around, find out shit and just invade? Like, what? Like, what? Okay, listen. Also, hi, Shu. Listen, new plan, guys, okay? New plan, all right? We establish a new Donbass region within the Russian border. It's brilliant. Ukraine reconquers the Donetsk and Luhansk regions, okay? Declares a special military operation in Western Russia, and then after 8 years of fighting and conflict, declares these areas breakaway states that are actually ethnically Ukrainian. It's perfect. It's perfect. It's the only way out. It's the only way forward. In all seriousness, though, the problem with any kind of, like, ceasefire in the region is that Putin, as a leader, is just fundamentally untrustworthy, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
Like, there's no reason to ever believe that any cessation of violence would, like, be respected by Russia's side. So, it's really difficult to imagine, like, peace without Putin being suicided in the back of the head. I don't know. It's very difficult for me to imagine, like, genuine peace in the region, no matter what happens to Russia, unless Putin dies. Like, I understand that sounds hyperbolic, but, like, does it not? Can you guys imagine, after everything Russia has done, that it would respect a ceasefire? They had a ceasefire back in, like, 2014. They had Minsk 1 and 2, and they just ignored both of them and kept funding secessionist groups in the Donbass region. Like, yeah, it's just... Yeah, I don't know.
Alright, that was interesting. You know what? Let's move on. I think I want to move on to... I think I want to move on to a different game. Let's see. Okay. Let's check it out, what we got available to us. The Master Duel, I guess. Just no-brain it. What's new with the Discord? Yes, newsfeed. The N&R Rarity Festival. What is that? Event info. Interesting. It's all well and good. Now the question I have to ask in return is, are there any new... Nothing. There is actually nothing. Checking the Discord, seeing what people are up to. Let's see. Honestly, I kind of want to hop into a duel. It's been a hot minute since I played Master Duel. Sure, I'll play Shadalls. I'll go second. I'll risk it. We'll see what happens. I'm actually kind of interested. Hold on.
Purporting to be...
So, this is actually, I actually kind of wanted to show this real quick. Let me just... Our music, sound effects. Let's lower those a little bit. What do we got? Star Pendulum Grab. Can I talk about it? That's a Maxine moment right there. So let's pull up the camera. And so this is a video. So let me just click that. So this is a video by Mad Luigi, 20k subs. 20. So if you're watching, go show your love. And it's about the lore of Godric the Grafted. So I was actually kind of interested in the lore of Godric the Grafted, and I was wondering like what his shtick. Like obviously, it's in the name, but I'm like, what is it deeper? And because I'm not a huge lore junkie, where I'm hunting down every single snippet of lore. I show that guy. So here's a 10-minute video by again Mr. Mad Luigi, and let's hopefully we learn something a little bit more about this weird ass boss.
of the golden lineage, but too weak and sickly to be truly worthy. Purporting to be of the golden lineage, but too weak and sickly to be truly worthy, stands the first Shardbearer boss of Elden Ring, Godric the Grafted. Ironically, even the game itself mocks him for his weakness. Despite his own announcement as Lord of all that is golden, the game immediately contradicts him, with his boss bar stating his name to be Godric the Grafted, not the Golden. Godric is a boss immediately known to the player as compensating for his lack of power. We learn from Roderica that someone is grafting those who approach Stormvale Castle.
Everyone's been grafted?
Grafting is the process of joining separate tissues so that they may grow together. In Godric's case, he grafts the limbs of challengers to his body, that he may grow from their strength. As his remembrance tells his story, a feeble man sought power through the grotesque act of grafting. One day we'll return together to our home, bathed in rays of gold. Godric yearned for the glory of a bygone age, hoping to return to it in a splendor of golden light. We can learn much about his golden yearning when we consider his lineage. Gideon Ofnir summarizes.
So, Godric the Grafted, Lord of Stormvale. Despite being the blood of Godfrey, first Elden Lord, he's a grotesque old fool grasping for power. His castle lies upon the cliff to Limgrave's northwest, but I suspect you know that well enough already.
Godric seeks the golden glory known to his blood, known to the first Elden Lord, Godfrey. But Enya, in discussing the demigods, explains how Godric is incapable of achieving this.
But remember one thing. The demigods are each and all the direct offspring of Queen Marika. Godric the Grafted was but a distant relation, the runt of the litter. His divine blood sorely diluted.
Despite being of divine blood, Godric is a distant relation, with faded power, and as such he is weak. He seeks to claim connection with Godfrey, emblazoning his axe with the figure of a beast, representing the strength of the first Elden Lord. But he is ridiculed by many of the residents of the lands between. Obviously the attempted connection does not shine through. And considering his history, it's no surprise. We hear much of his pitiable story from Sir Kenneth Haight, who ridicules as much as relays the feats of Godric.
Honestly, Godric's nothing more than a jumped-up country bumpkin. Lord? Oh, don't make me laugh. First, he hid himself amongst the womenfolk to flee the capital, then hid from Radahn in that castle. Then he insulted Melania, lost to her in battle, only to lick her boots rather than die like a man. Has he no shame, the big girl's blouse?
Hey, Zectron, what's going on,
He's
bro?
the blood of Godfrey, last of the golden lineage. Though you almost wouldn't know it to look at him. Yeah, I almost feel sorry for the chap the more I think of it.
And Kenneth isn't making this stuff up. We get confirmation of at least some of what he says in a swords monument in Limgrave. It reads, Godric the Golden, humiliated. Having tasted...
I've been pretty good. Relaxing, chilling. Wasn't planning on streaming today. I just kind of wanted to, like, you know, record some content, play some games, relax. Not really, like, put too much pressure on performing as well. Just chilling.
defeat by the blade of Mikel,
How are you?
now on his knees begging for mercy. So it seems like Kenneth is speaking reliably, which would mean Godric was humiliated by both Melania, the blade of Mikel, and Radahn, in addition to his sorry state of hiding amongst the women when he fled Lindell. He might have even used magic to make himself appear as a woman to really sell the ruse. After all, the Mimic's Veil item description reads, when Godric was hounded from Lindell, the royal capital, this was one of a multitude of treasures he took with him. This item lets players use FP to mimic nearby objects, so Godric could have used it to mimic the fleeing women, to really make sure he was not spotted, along with stealing plenty of other items. Ever the coward. But there's something else important about that Swords Monument inscription. It refers to Godric as Godric the Golden, the same epithet as is used for Godfrey. This is another testament to his golden lineage, regardless of how diluted it may be. Maybe the Golden is Godric's proper or original title, and what he was called before he began his grafting. We do hear Morgott call him Godric the Golden.
Godric the Golden.
If the Grafted was a title of derision that people began calling Godric later, then it makes sense that Morgott would speak of him with his original formal title.
Yep, I moved out of the old place end of December of 2020, and I've been here ever since. It has been quite a while since I've seen you, my brother.
So Godric was originally a Golden, but nonetheless he was weak, falling and failing many times, being humiliated by other demigods. Godric needed more power to assert his place as one of the Golden lineage, and he found an avenue to such power through grafting. But Godric, believe it or not, was likely not the first in the lands between, or even in his family, to practice the art of grafting to grow in power. In the Altus Plateau, before the capital, we can find an Evergaol named the Golden Lineage Evergaol. In it is Godfrey the Grafted, another of the Golden lineage, who, like Godric, must have felt too weak for his illustrious line. Godfrey drops the Godfrey Icon, a legendary talisman depicting the Elden Lord Godfrey. The description speaks of how the ferocious warrior took the beast regent Sarosh upon his back to suppress his ceaseless lust for battle. Unlike Godric and Godfrey, who feel weak and need to increase their strength, Godfrey, the one they idolize, was such a warrior that he had to suppress his fighting urges. Once again, the difference between Godric and his lineage is shown to be painfully vast. We learn that Godfrey was put in the Evergaol by ancient dragon knight Kristoff. The knight's ashes tell us that, after the first defense of Lindell, Kristoff earned the hero's honor of Erdtree Burial for the feat of capturing Godfrey the Grafted. The first defense of Lindell is a vague event, with our only description of it being found on another sword monument in the Altus Plateau, which reads, the first defense of Lindell. A sovereign alliance rots from within.
Absolutely.
Traces yet remain of bloody
This
conspiracy.
fat roll ain't nothing to fuck
While the
with.
rot may seem evocative of Melania, it could just be a choice of translation. It can be translated without the word rot, and it may just mean that the alliance was broken from within, though the blood reference is a direct translation. So Moog, Lord of Blood, may have been involved in this attack on Lindell, though from which side is hard to tell. Considering Godfrey was captured after the fight, it's likely this grafted one was on the attacking side. And we don't really have a clear timeline at all, so this next conjecture could be completely off base. But if this attack happened at the same time that Godric escaped the capital, then perhaps he saw his kin member fighting with the demigods through the power of grafting. This could have been Godric's inspiration to take to grafting, to grow in power, to gain respect, and to be worthy of his name. So Godric began grafting, himself, his followers, and even his warhawks. The warhawk ashes read, "Spirit of a Stormvale warhawk, the talons of which have been sliced off so that razor-fine swords could be grafted in their place. With its lord vanquished and its wings wounded, the hawk perished as it solemnly gazed at its former home. The storm is a warhawk's cradle." Godric took control of Stormvale Castle, but he did not bring the power of the ancient storm. He stands as the first major obstacle for the Tarnished, picking off the weak ones and grafting them for his own power. Even taking the power of a dragon did him no good, though he could only take the head of a dragon small and long dead. And in this futile act, we can see for one last time, Godric yearned to mirror his blood. For long ago, Godfrey, the first Elden Lord, fought in the war with the dragons, facing the Storm Lord alone. And war was not all. His son, Godwyn, befriended the dragons, becoming companion to Fortisax, whose Death Lightning incantation features Godwyn's Golden Lightning. In his final moments, Godric once again juxtaposed his weakness to his ancestors' strength, presenting a feeble rendition of his family's theme of draconic connection. Finally, Godric shouts for his ancestors to recognize him. Then he dies, yearning to return to Leyndell in golden glory.
And one day, we'll return together to our home, bathed in rays of gold.
But he could only find lordship in Stormville, and only for a time. He could not escape his weakness and his cowardice. Thus, he fell. But there is a new lord, ready and willing to take his place. With the newest patch, Lady Nefeli Loux can find her place as Lord of Stormville, recognized by the fair judging sense of Kenneth Hite. Nefeli Loux is of lineage and possible daughter of Hoarah, the warrior side of Godfrey the Golden. In this, Stormvale once again is led by a warrior of a lord, one who can summon the storm once more. And that is the end of the lore.
Should probably
of
head back
Godric
there
the
and
Grafted.
get and solve
Thank
that.
you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to stick around if you want to see more, because I will be making more lore content about Elden Ring. Let me know in the comments if there's anything I missed or any kind of interpretation.
That was really good. Mad Luigi is his name. He's certainly, I think, what is it? 20 times, 22 times, 20, no, he's 11 times my size, but still a small guy and made a really good video. I like that a lot. That was really good. Hey, and I got my rank up. Ain't that wonderful? Cool. Cool beans. What else? What could be next? Have you ran into any dragons yet? Oh, absolutely I've run into dragons. Although, I haven't gotten around to go killing Lake Dragon Egheel yet. Actually, you know what? I should probably do that right about now. So let me just real quick get this wire, get my controller, plug this bitch in. That's actually not terrible runs. Missions. Claim all rewards. See if there's any notifications. Alright, so let's dip out of here. Yep. And let's hop into some Elden Ring, I think. Close. Maybe I'll update. The fuck you mean the app's already running? Stream info, you're obnoxious. Go to that. Task manager. Dusk into task. We'll scroll down here, see if I can find good old Elden Ring. And task. There we go, that's better. Click play. Pitter patter, let's go. The line goes up. Let's go. Doing some Elden Ring. Continue. Hold on. Fucker. No, I do not like those prowling lions. I just want to get to the boss up here. Here we go, yo. Here we go, yo. I might as well, for the first time, I think, ever really in this game since I first started, I'm gonna follow the grace and see where it leads me. I had a feeling there was going to be a dragon. Bro, I can't see shit. Hey, there's Grace. And another sacred tier. I haven't had one of these in a long time. It has been quite a long time now that I think about it. And I will walk 500 miles, and I will walk 500 more. Fucking dogs. Oh boy, that is... Fucking dogs! Yes. Touch Grace, touch Grace, touch Grace, touch Grace, touch Grace. Alley-oop. Yay. Eat me. Fucker. Get around, I get around, get around, I get around. Ooh. If there's one thing I have learned about this game, is that running like a bitch is also a good way to get progression. Surprisingly. Here we go. Off you go. Eat me. Alrighty, that went surprisingly well. Smithing stone 7. Cool beans. I think I am... No, not there. Where do I go next? Who's mom? Not there. And here I thought I knew where I needed to go. Unless... This might be a mistake, but you know what? What can you do? Is this the way to go? I hope it's the way to go. Oh, it was. Fuck! Oops. Let's, I say let's keep it going. Oh, this looks interesting.
How do...
So this is actually by In Deep Geek, and it's a channel I found not too long ago that I really, really like. And I'm not a Tolkien fan by like any stretch of the imagination, but this guy actually does really do cool shit, so I wanted to share this while I'm playing.
How did the elf economy work? Was it just some happy communes in Rivendell and Lothlorien, or was there more to it than that? Hi everyone, this is Robert. Welcome to In Deep Geek. If you like theories, background, history and lore about The Lord of the Rings, A Song of Ice and Fire and The Witcher, this is the channel for you. There's a subscribe button in the bottom right of your screen. It's quite easy reading The Lord of the Rings or watching the movies to view the elves of Middle-earth as living in a series of some kind of idealized, distributive commune. Everyone has everything they need and everyone is happy. It's easy to think that because the elves are presented as magical, ethereal beings operating on a different level to mere humans. But Tolkien cared about details, so how did the elf economy actually work? Was it all just magic and sharing, or was there more to it than that? And to avoid confusion, I'll mostly here be talking about the main Third Age elf communities in Lothlorien, Northern Mirkwood and Rivendell. We may well draw a few examples from previous ages, but that's not where our focus will be. And the elves in Valinor are a completely different thing altogether. With that said, we have to acknowledge first of all that the elf economy had a number of impressive inbuilt advantages. First, obviously, elves are, to all intents and purposes, immortal. They do age and grow weary, but when they do, they tend to account that as the right time to go to Valinor, and absent themselves from Middle-earth. And although elf children mature physically slower than human children do, elves are considered to have achieved maturity at the age of around 100, and elf pregnancies last a bit longer than human ones, their low rates of reproduction mean that at any given moment in time, the vast majority of the elf population is of an economically productive age. In other words, there aren't very many children to look after, and still fewer, if any, aged elves to care for. Almost everyone can be an economically productive member of society. Added to which, elves don't get sick. They can be injured or poisoned or wounded in battle, but they don't get infections or any of the other chronic conditions that humans suffer from. The economic impact here is again significant when you consider how much most modern states and individuals within those states spend on healthcare, care for the elderly and the young. The elves don't have any of that. Another, perhaps more unquantifiable economic impact of elf immortality is the stability and wisdom it brings. Unlike human cultures changing leader every few decades and changing policy even more often, the elves just keep on going as they are. The leaders of the elves have remained unchanged for millennia by the time of the
damn,
Lord of
that's
the Rings,
unfortunate.
and by and large, I think we would call that leadership wise. Galadriel, Elrond,
Your ride
and Círdan,
disappeared on you,
certainly. I have my reservations about Celeborn and Thranduil, but that's for another video. And finally, in terms of economic advantages or distinctives, the elves seem to have lived a broadly simple lifestyle. They are content with their lot, enjoying simple pleasures like singing and creative arts, lore and tending for the natural environment.
I'll shoot you a call in a bit,
good
Sean.
in that it means a happy, content population with limited demand for rare and hard-to-get products, but it also seems to have seriously dampened down innovation and economic development. When the Noldor were back in Valinor, there were many advances. Feanor was at the forefront of this. His restless genius created such things as the Palantiri, long-distance communication devices, Feanorian lamps, lanterns that gave out a continuous light without a power source, and much more. That innovative problem-solving invention
Sean.
is noticeably lacking in Third Age elves. So with all that in mind, how did the elf economy work? Well, it appears to have been managed both top-down and bottom-up. What I mean is that the elves clearly had leadership. There is a king or lord or lady in charge of each of the main settlements, and their word appears law, including telling people to do different tasks at different times. But many elves seem to have sorted themselves into areas of expertise they specialise in. We hear of plenty of elves who are smiths and craftsmen. Celebrimbor in the Second Age is the primary example of this, but there are many others mentioned by name. Plus, by implication, those involved in construction, carpentry, tanning, cloth-making, and so on. None of this is at an industrial scale, though, just skilled artisans working their craft. And incidentally, other than warfare, which was mostly a male preserve, all other crafts seem to have been shared equally between male and female elves, each according to their skill and inclination, without sex or gender bias. Food production and agriculture is more curious, because Tolkien doesn't really mention this in connection with the elves. There are clearly some things they produce themselves, the lembas bread and white mead in Lothlorien, for example, but most of the places the elves live don't appear suitable for anything approaching intensive farming. Forests and caves and hidden valleys. We read of occasional fields and several gardens, but nothing large scale. I think there are a few answers to this, though. First, although elves do clearly love feasting, they have also developed foodstuffs that provide you with all the nutrition you need with only a few bites. Lembas, for example. So their need for agricultural land is much less. It's a matter of how much food they want. Second, woodland offers plentiful opportunities for hunting, foraging, and so on. We know that the elves hunt and know herb lore. And thirdly, there is their magic. Galadriel would at this point state that it isn't magic, it's all just natural to them, which is fair enough, but compared to humans, hobbits, dwarves, etc., they do seem to be able to do something with nature in a way that seems magical. Lothlorien, for example, seems bountiful. A fruit tree grown there will produce lots of fruit. We get just a hint of this right at the end of the story. Galadriel had given Sam a gift of soil from her orchard. He went around the Shire and put grains of it wherever trees had been cut down or gardens damaged, and new trees grew quickly, so that later in that year we read, "The fruit was so plentiful that young hobbits very nearly bathed in strawberries and cream, and later they sat on the lawns under the plum trees and ate until they had made piles of stones like small pyramids." In the South Farthing, the vines were laden, and the yield of leaf was astonishing, and everywhere there was so much corn that at harvest every barn was stuffed. The North Farthing barley was so fine that the beer of 1420 malt was long remembered and became a byword. It seems that obtaining amazing food was not a problem in Lothlorien, and probably also in Rivendell. These two havens were not just well run, but kept magically preserved and protected against the ravages of the outside world by the rings of power possessed by Galadriel and Elrond. Galadriel implicitly admits this reliance on the power of the ring when saying to Frodo that, "If you succeed, then our power is diminished, and Lothlorien will fade, and the tides of time will sweep it away. We must depart into the west, or dwindle, to a rustic folk of dell and cave, slowly to forget and to be forgotten. Without the ring, Lothlorien would not be bountiful. As a complete aside, the third elven ring was worn by Gandalf, and it seems he may have made use of this power in a rather fun way when he blessed Barliman's beer at the Prancing Pony. When Gandalf and the hobbits came back at the end of the story, Barliman notes that since then his beer has been uncommonly good. But anyway, back to the elves. Whereas Lothlorien and Rivendell had rings of power to help them, Thranduil's realm in North Mirkwood did not. And they were stuck in some caves in a forest that started out being bounteous. Greenwood the Great, Mirkwood's original name, sounds a lovely place to live, but by the end of the Third Age it was getting darker and more corrupted by the year. I'm sure they managed some foraging, hunting and small-scale farming, but how did they make up the rest of what they needed? The answer, as we know from The Hobbit, is trade with the people of Lake Town. From Lake Town, the barrels were brought up the Forest River. Often they were just tied together like big rafts and poled or rowed up the stream. Sometimes they were loaded onto flat boats. When the barrels were empty, the elves cast them through the trapdoors, opened the water gate, and out the barrels floated on the stream, bobbing along until they were carried by their current to a place far down the river. We read of wine, butter and apples all being sent to the elves this way, and it wasn't just local trade. We're told that the wine came from Dorwinion, hundreds of miles away. We're not told what the elves traded back, so perhaps they just bought these goods. Indeed, the master of Lake Town does seem pleased with the gold he gets from trade. There are a few comments about river tolls, presumably set by the elves, and Thranduil is very fast to gather his army and head off to Erebor to try to get some gold. In short, Thranduil's realm seems to operate on a very different economic model to Lothlorien and Rivendell. There, money doesn't even seem to be a concept, but for Thranduil, money is a necessary part of how he gets food and luxuries for his people, and he is, to put it tactfully, very happy to use the instruments of the state to secure additional money wherever he can, even by marching his army to what he thinks is an abandoned dragon horde that had belonged to somebody else. To be fair to Thranduil, he does seem to soften his position once he finds the dwarves are still alive and his allies from Lake Town have a claim too. Trade is not new for elves, of course. Celebrimbor's folk had a very strong relationship with the Longbeards of Khazad-dûm, and the elven settlements of Menegroth were built as a joint effort between dwarves and elves, and some dwarves stayed there as craftsmen in residence, taking on commissions from the elves. That didn't end well, though. So where does all this leave us? Thranduil's realm in northern Mirkwood was a trading nation-state led by an autocratic king. They were part of a burgeoning trading network in the northeast of the map of Middle-earth we know, with goods travelling up and down rivers, specialisation in production in different areas. The elves imported wine and butter, for example, production of which requires wide open spaces for cows and vines, spaces that didn't exist in Mirkwood. Income was generated by tolls, and probably also the sale of goods and services that the elves were specialists in. Not that this was anything like a free market economy, other than the trading. It was very centrally run, with people being allocated jobs that they didn't necessarily enjoy or excel at. The elves in charge of the barrels certainly didn't seem to take much pride in their job. And although they seemed to get by with feasts and fun, the Third Age was not good for them. They lost huge tracts of land in Mirkwood to the encroaching shadow, and although there were fewer elves than in earlier ages, the population of Upper Mirkwood was still greater than the other elven enclaves. Reading between the lines, the mention of squabbles over river tolls and Thranduil's rush to try and grab some of Smaug's gold hint heavily that he needed that money for imports. North Mirkwood was no longer self-sufficient. Lothlorien and Rivendell are happier places, though. Harvests are good, populations are small, and the people are content, so the need for trade is minimal. They are both still led by strong leaders who reserve the right to conscript people for military service, for example, but their economic systems seem, well, almost idyllic. There is no money and no need for money. Everyone produces what their gifts allow, and they work with their environment for the blessing of all, from each according to their ability, to each according to their need. No, not communism, Tolkien hated communism, but a commune where the environment provides for all, and the leader assures the security of the land. And fundamentally, This is not meant to be nitty-gritty possible. It is made possible by magic. Without the Rings of Power, Rivendell and Lothlorien's economic systems would collapse, and they did. It's one of the most touching moments at the end of The Lord of the Rings, the realization that Galadriel's most enduring legacy in Middle-earth after she left was that the Shire gained a taste of the bounty of Lothlorien for generations to come. And it is fitting that this was not sold to Sam, not traded for something, but given freely. Sam, out of all of the Fellowship, understood that relationship with nature that lay at the heart of the elves' economic systems, and he bequeathed that to the Shire. If you'd like to see more Lord of the Rings videos, please click on the link appearing now on the left of your screen, or to support this channel and get
please go check out their Patreon. They're really, I really like In Deep Geeks videos. They got about 340k subs, way more than me. But they are definitely worth supporting, and I really like their videos. I'm not a Lord of the Rings fan, so I don't really know a whole ton, but it certainly is entertaining to like watch their stuff. On to the boss fight now. Fingers crossed for a power pip next turn. Sheesh. Is it gonna hurt? It's gonna hurt. It's Sunbird, and I'm taking an extra 30% damage. Okay, that's not too bad. Damn. You know what? I'll risk it. Wonderful. Exactly what I needed. Alright. I think that's an adequate amount of setup. As long as he doesn't hit me with another one of those frickin', yeah, he didn't. Okay, we're good. As long as this doesn't fizzle, we win. And we do win. Sunburb tree bug. 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 Fuck. All right, y'all. I'm sorry. I gotta run. I gotta start getting ready for some content a little bit later today. But much love, everybody, and I will see you guys next time. Big thanks to my patrons: American Autopsy, Reed Savage, Mike Nicely, PT Sean, Vivian Van Dam, Anthony J. Lopez, and my Twitch subs, Homie in the Hoodie, Anthony Retna, Not Frisk, King of Kermit and Cola, Tommy Bowie, Magpie Sparks, and the one and only DX Roberta. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to support me, consider joining my Patreon. I gotta run. I will catch you guys a little bit later. Peace.